The first time Claire Bennett heard her daughter laugh again, she nearly dropped the glass in her hand. It wasn't a polite laugh. Not the weak little smile 12-year-old Emma forced during therapy sessions. This was real. Loud. Free. Alive. Claire froze outside Emma's bedroom door, listening carefully as the sound echoed through the hallway of their massive penthouse apartment in downtown Chicago. For 8 months after the accident, silence had lived inside that home like a ghost. Emma barely spoke anymore. Not after losing her father in the car crash that almost took her life too. Doctors called it emotional trauma. Therapists called it grief withdrawal. But Claire knew the truth no one wanted to say aloud. Her daughter had stopped believing life could ever feel safe again. And now, suddenly, she was laughing. Claire slowly pushed open the door. Emma sat on her bed in pajamas, clutching her stomach while watching something on her tablet. Tears streamed down her face from laughing too hard. For a second, Claire simply stared. She had forgotten what her daughter looked like when she was happy. "Emma," she whispered carefully. Emma looked up, startled. "Oh, sorry, Mom. I didn't hear you." Claire walked closer. "What are you watching?" Emma hesitated, then turned the screen around. It was a grainy security camera video from a small grocery store parking lot. A man in worn jeans and a faded hoodie danced beside a shopping cart while a little girl, maybe 6 years old, sat inside laughing uncontrollably. The man pretended the cart was a race car. Then a spaceship. Then somehow turned into a dramatic movie villain who got defeated by invisible lasers. The little girl laughed so hard she nearly fell out of the cart. And strangely, Claire found herself smiling too. "Who is he?" she asked softly. Emma shrugged. "I don't know. Someone uploaded the clip online. People are calling him Parking Lot Dad." The video replayed. This time Claire noticed something different. The man wasn't performing for attention. He wasn't even aware the camera existed. Everything about him felt genuine. Messy. Tired. Real. The little girl suddenly hugged his neck mid-laugh, and the man paused for one tiny moment, closing his eyes like that hug alone made every hardship worth surviving. Something tightened painfully inside Claire's chest. Because she recognized that expression. It was the face of a parent carrying the weight of the world alone. And somehow still choosing joy. That night, after Emma finally fell asleep smiling for the first time in months, Claire sat alone in her office replaying the video again and again. Then she noticed the grocery store logo in the corner of the footage. Bennett Fresh Markets. Her company. Claire was CEO of one of the largest grocery chains in Illinois. Which meant the man worked somewhere under her corporate empire. By midnight, curiosity had become obsession. She called her head of regional operations immediately. "I need the identity of the employee from store 214, she said. There was a pause. "At this hour?" "Yes." The file arrived 20 minutes later. Name: Daniel Brooks. Age: 34. Position: Night Stalker. Employment status: part-time. Widowed. 1 child. Claire stared silently at the screen. Widowed. A single dad. Something about that detail hit harder than expected. Then she noticed his attendance record. Perfect. No disciplinary issues. No complaints. Frequently volunteered for extra shifts. Yet his salary was barely enough to survive. Claire leaned back slowly. The man making her daughter laugh for the first time in nearly a year was earning less in a month than she spent on one executive dinner. And suddenly that fact made her uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. The next morning, Claire drove herself to store 214 without telling anyone. No assistants. No press team. No security. She wore plain clothes and parked across the street. Inside, the store buzzed with early customers. Then she spotted him. Daniel Brooks. He looked even more exhausted in person. Dark circles under his eyes. Worn work boots. A healing cut on his hand. Yet somehow, he still smiled while helping an elderly woman reach cereal from a high shelf. Claire watched quietly from the next aisle. Then she saw something else. A tiny girl sat near the employee break room coloring with crayons. Same child from the video. Daniel glanced toward her every few seconds while stocking shelves. Protective. Alert. Present. The little girl waved excitedly whenever he looked over. And every single time, he waved back like it was the most important thing in the world. Claire felt her throat tighten unexpectedly. Because despite all her wealth, all her success, all her power, she hadn't seen that kind of connection in a very long time. Not since before the accident. She turned to the store manager quietly. Why is his daughter here? The manager sighed. Babysitter quit 3 weeks ago. He can't afford another one yet. Claire frowned. And no one helped? We tried. But Daniel refuses charity. That answer somehow made Claire respect him even more. At that exact moment, Daniel accidentally dropped an entire box of canned soup. Metal exploded across the floor loudly. Customers turned. Daniel immediately knelt, apologizing while scrambling to clean everything up. And then something happened Claire would never forget. His daughter ran over instantly. Without embarrassment. Without fear. She simply sat beside him on the floor and started helping pick up cans one by one. Teamwork, she whispered proudly. Daniel looked at her and smiled with tired eyes. Always. Claire felt something crack open inside her chest. Because that single word carried more warmth than anything she'd heard in months. Maybe years. She left the store without introducing herself. But she couldn't stop thinking about them. That evening Emma asked quietly, "Did you find out who parking lot dad is?" Claire nodded. "And?" "He works for my company." Emma smiled faintly. "He seems nice." Claire looked at her daughter carefully. "You really liked the video that much?" Emma's smile faded a little. "He reminds me of Dad." Silence filled the room. Then Emma whispered something Claire would carry forever. He looked tired, but happy to be with his daughter anyway. Claire had no response. Because children notice truths adults overlook. The next week, Claire secretly reviewed employee hardship cases across her company. What she discovered horrified her. Workers skipping meals. Single parents sleeping in cars. Employees working while injured because they feared losing hours. And for the first time in her career, spreadsheets stopped looking like numbers. They started looking like people. One employee changed everything. Daniel Brooks. The man who unknowingly helped heal her daughter's heart. 3 days later, Claire visited store 214 again. This time openly. Executives panicked as she walked through the aisles unexpectedly. Managers straightened ties nervously. Daniel looked confused when he saw her approaching. "Ma'am, can I help you?" Claire studied him quietly before answering. "You already did." He blinked. "I'm sorry?" "My daughter hasn't laughed in 8 months, Claire said softly. Until she saw your video." Daniel froze completely. Claire continued. "You had no idea someone was recording you, did you?" He looked embarrassed immediately. "Oh God, that video spread online?" His daughter peeked from behind him nervously. Claire knelt to her level. "You have a wonderful dad." The little girl smiled proudly. "I know." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "We were just being silly." Claire stood slowly. "No," she said gently. "You were being present. That's rarer than you think." The store fell completely silent around them. Then Claire did something no executive expected. She asked Daniel a question no billionaire had ever asked him before. "How are you really doing?" For a moment, his composure cracked. Just slightly. Enough for the exhaustion to show. Enough for the loneliness to surface. Enough for Claire to realize how long it had probably been since anyone genuinely cared. Daniel swallowed hard before answering honestly. "Some days are harder than others." Claire nodded quietly. Then she handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a promotion offer. Full benefits. A salary tripled from his current pay. Flexible parenting hours. And fully paid childcare support. Daniel stared at the papers in shock. I can't accept charity." Claire shook her head immediately. "This isn't charity." She glanced around the store. "This company has spent years rewarding numbers and ignoring humanity. I'm trying to fix that." Daniel looked speechless. But Claire wasn't finished. She smiled softly. "My daughter remembers how to laugh because of you." Tears filled Daniel's eyes instantly. Not because of the money. But because someone finally saw how hard he had been trying. A week later, Emma asked if she could meet him. Claire arranged a small company family event quietly. No media. No publicity. Just people. When Daniel arrived with his daughter, Emma walked toward them shyly. Then something beautiful happened. Children did what adults often forget how to do. They connected instantly. Within minutes, the girls laughed together while Daniel and Claire watched nearby. "You saved her," Claire admitted quietly. Daniel shook his head. "No. I think she just needed a reason to feel joy again." Claire looked at him carefully. "And who gave your daughter hers?" Daniel smiled faintly. "My wife did, before she passed." For a moment neither spoke. Two grieving parents. Two exhausted souls. Standing quietly while their children laughed nearby. And for